Hello, all. This is Erika Hood and Maria Figueroa, and you are listening to the Center for Reducing Health Disparities Think Tank podcast, Point Blank. And today we're shooting it out to you straight, connecting research to community and learning from those academic, clinical, and community experts. What's today's topic? All right, so this is Erika Hood here with another Center for Reducing Health Disparities Point Blank podcast. And today we're here to talk about an interesting topic. On this Friday, March 11th, is World Kidney Day. And we are here with two special guests to kind of talk to us about their journeys in the lane of kidneys, whether it's from a clinical or research standpoint or a patient. So we'll learn more about them today. And I just want to highlight first what World Kidney Day is and why this day was established. So according to worldkidneyday.org, World Kidney Day is a global campaign aimed at raising awareness of the importance of our kidneys. It's an annual event, and it's all to create awareness, whether it's creating awareness for preventative behaviors, risk factors, or just how to live a healthier life with kidney disease. Their goal is for kidney health for everyone. World Kidney Day is a joint initiative of the International Society of Nephrology and also the International Federation of Kidney Foundations. Their mission is to raise awareness of the importance of our kidneys to overall health and to reduce the frequency and impact of kidney disease and its associated health problems worldwide. Each year takes on a theme, and this year's theme for World Kidney Day is Kidney Health for All, Bridge the Gap to Better Kidney Care. You can learn more about World Kidney Day at worldkidneyday.org. So I'm here with Dr. Ann Huml. Hey, Ann, how are you?
Hi, Erika. I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Yes. And just for a little bit of reference, guys, Ann worked at the Center for Reducing Health Disparities, so I know her very well, working at our center, and she's now over at the Cleveland Clinic doing great work there. Just so glad to have her here. And then we have Marquisha Marbury, who is also my colleague. Hey, Keisha, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy. You guys, thank you so much for sitting down to chat with me today about World Kidney Day and just overall kidney disease, kidney research. I appreciate it. I know it's a lot out of your daily schedules, and also, it's a bit personal too. So I just appreciate your time.
No problem.
And before we dive in, I just want to give a bit of a background on Dr. Ann. And tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been a doctor, and what made you just choose nephrology as your field of interest?
Thanks, Erika. So I actually have been a kidney medicine physician or a nephrologist since I graduated from my fellowship in 2014. I guess technically I was a new doctor in 2006 when I graduated from medical school, but what got me interested in kidney medicine was a couple of things. First, kind of the long-term relationship you can build with patients along their journey in kidney disease, meaning that starting from chronic kidney disease through kidney failure, transplant, and even dialysis. The other thing that I always thought about kidney disease was that we have a lot of medicines to offer and a lot of replacement therapies to offer, depending on what stage of kidney failure patients have.
And was there anything in particular that drew you to this field, or you learned about it, as you were like in school and it kind of stood out?
I mostly learned about it during my training, and I gravitated towards it in that way. I would add to that I had a lot of good mentors who are nephrologists, and so they kind of molded my impression of the field along the way as well.
That's awesome. I know up until I began to work in public health, I just called kidney doctors. But now putting the proper term to kidney doctors, nephrology, it's something that I learned along the way. So, and you've been working at the center for just a little while because you came back. This is your 2.0 time at the Center for Reducing Health Disparities, and you started off with us a while ago. So tell us a little bit about your journey at Metro Health.
I started at Metro in 2008 at the Center for Reducing Health Disparities as a transplant navigator, working in dialysis centers because I had a kidney transplant. So I was able to kind of explain the process and what all I went through. From there, I switched over and became a nutritionist at WIC, worked there for 6 years. And now I'm back at the Center for Reducing Health Disparity as a clinical research coordinator, working with different research studies, mainly in sleep apnea.
Awesome. It's good to have you back. I know you were a name that I've heard when I first got hired about, did you know Keisha? And I'm like, no, I did not. But now I finally get to work with you and you are such a joy to work with. So let us just dive in a little bit. As you know from our name, Center for Reducing Health Disparities, a lot of our work revolves around disparities that exist amongst various groups and amongst various aspects of health. And as we talk about nephrology today, I just wanted to ask Anne a few questions about disparities that seem to emerge in this field that she has, I don't know if it's new things or things that you already have known, but like, what is the research showing us today?
Sure. So, throughout about 35 million individuals in the US actually have some form of chronic kidney disease. Of those 35 million individuals, about 800,000 of them have permanent kidney failure and require renal replacement therapy, either in the form of dialysis, in-center dialysis, home dialysis modalities, or kidney transplant. So when we think about disparities in kidney disease, there are multiple at several different levels. First, African Americans are more disproportionately affected by kidney disease in general. The disparity kind of exists not only in understanding and diagnosing kidney disease in patients, but also throughout the spectrum of disease to, treating patients with the most preferred modality of renal replacement therapy, including kidney transplant. So what Keisha mentioned earlier about transplant navigators was one project that the Center for Reducing Health Disparities worked on several years ago. We realized that there's disparities in access to kidney transplant among those patients with kidney failure. And part of the reason is, early referral of patients for kidney transplant, and recognizing those disparities and trying to target an intervention at the dialysis units so that patients can understand what a transplant would mean for them, and helping them through this multi-step process to getting on the kidney transplant waiting list and eventually receiving a kidney transplant. So, with that said, I think that disparities occur many places in kidney disease. Early recognition of disease in general, disproportionately affecting African American patients, and then access to equal care among patients with kidney disease.
I saved this question for later down the list, but I want to address it now. Like, what is something that people can look for if you have a family prevalence of kidney disease, or is there always some type of event or illness that occurs that creates kidney disease? Like, what do I look for?
That's a good question. So, kidney disease can occur for many different reasons and kind of present itself in many different ways. I think as at a baseline, seeing a healthcare provider and getting routine screening, whether that be blood pressure screening, urine testing as a screen for any sort of abnormalities in the urine, like protein, and even basic blood testing can help us identify patients who are either at risk or have some kidney dysfunction at baseline. To your point, Erika, we've recognized that some patients have a genetic predisposition to kidney disease, whether that be through their African ancestry and an APOL1 gene determinant for kidney disease, or patients who also have kidney disease running in their family may have diseases such as polycystic kidney disease, which is also an inherited form of kidney disease. Patients with uncontrolled blood pressure are at risk for progression of their kidney disease to kidney failure. And then, patients also with other comorbidities, including diabetes, which is uncontrolled, have predisposition to kidney failure as well. So I think, good routine screening would be a place for patients to start. Those patients with a family history or a strong family history of kidney disease should be more astute to, understanding any kind of changes in their body that would make them think that something's different.
Okay, so that sounds good. Just annual physical, like, it's a huge help, just to see if something is off, and then having a doctor explore that more deeply if someone isn't feeling well or have numbers that kind of read off in some type of way. Okay, that sounds good. So thinking about the research, like, where do we need to go next? Technology is advancing, disparities are still there and existing. Like, where can we go next as far as research goes, or what are some more questions that we need to figure out to try to, I guess, aim towards this kidney health for all that the World Kidney Day Foundation kind of talks about?
So, I think there's several initiatives that are ongoing and have started in the recent years about health equity in the space of kidney disease. One thing or one way that I've seen kidney disease and management of kidney disease really changes patient-centeredness and patient involvement, patient choice. A lot of the ways that kidney health is reimbursed is through Medicare and CMS. And they've really instituted some changes recently so that patients can make their own choices about what kind of renal replacement therapy is important to them. Federal funded research projects are now including more community advisory boards and patient advisors in the early stages of developing interventions and research questions about kidney disease. For example, one federally funded project in the Cleveland area that's a collaboration between Cleveland Clinic and Metro Health addresses how patients with acute kidney injury who were hospitalized can be transitioned back to home from the hospital and what interventions and processes of care best benefit those patients. As part of that project that I'm on, we've engaged patient advisors who've experienced episodes of acute kidney injury in the hospital and really taken their experiences into account when developing our research protocol. So I think this patient-centeredness around kidney medicine is really, really important. I think other initiatives have occurred over the past several years that help to promote innovation in kidney disease. So the way we deliver dialysis to patients and the types of therapies we have largely remained unchanged over decades. And one initiative called Kidney X is an innovation, or how should I say it? It's like accelerator to advance innovation for patients with kidney disease more rapidly. And it's a public-private partnership between the American Society of Nephrology and academia and entrepreneurs to promote innovation around kidney disease. And this takes into account things like bioimplantable kidneys for better renal replacement therapy methods. It takes into account advances in xenotransplantation to afford more patients the opportunity to get a transplant and kind of close the gap around patients waiting for a kidney transplant and those able to receive a kidney transplant. So I think, acknowledging that there are these inequities in kidney medicine and making broad scale policy changes as well to fill these gaps and close these gaps is really, really important.
That is lots of innovation and changes. All right, so now we're going to switch over to Keisha and hear a little bit about her story as a person who has kidney disease and really has a really good journey to share. And I'm glad that you like to share your story to help encourage others. So I would love to just start with you and share a little bit about your journey and when you found out you had kidney disease, what kind of led up to that diagnosis?
I was diagnosed with lupus back in '99, I believe. I just had like a lot of swelling and in my lower extremities, and I finally went to the doctor and they explained that they were going to run some tests. They did a creatinine test and a GFR test, and come to find out my kidneys were shutting down. So I ended up having lupus nephritis, and then maybe about 2 to 3 years later, I ended up on dialysis. Started off with Huml and didn't like the fact that I had to keep going 3 times a week and had a limited diet. So I switched to peritoneal, and I was on dialysis roughly 9 months before I got a transplant. I ended up just kind of like asking my parents and my brother to go get a transplant workup to see who could donate a kidney, because I didn't care who, just somebody. And my brother was living in Columbus at the time, came up and did a complete workup at Cleveland Clinic, and he was a match. So we ended up scheduling that transplant on December 10th, 2003. And I had the transplant, and it's been 18 years now, if I'm not mistaken.
Years.
Yeah, so it's still riding.
Was your brother apprehensive at all, do you think? Or was he like, whatever I have to
he
do?
didn't show any apprehension. It's just he and I. So just the fact that he was able to donate, or as I say, give me the gift of life back, he was just happy to be able to do that for me.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And you talked a bit about a match, and I hear this all the time. Like, there needs to be diversity in organ donors, blood donors for these matches. So, Anne, can you kind of share a little bit about what matching someone looks like for a kidney?
Sure. So the initial match that we look at is blood group match or blood group compatibility. So that's typically, if you're blood type A, type O, AB, or B. So that's kind of the first level of blood group matching and blood group compatibility that we think about. Overall, there's two types of kidney donors: living kidney donors, as Keisha mentioned, her brother was her donor, and then deceased kidney donors. So the compatibility and the matching schemes are a little bit different between the two, but that would be the first layer of matching. The next thing we look at are proteins that are in every human's body. We call them human leukocyte antigen proteins, or HLA proteins. And we check for 6 different HLA proteins in people's blood, and then try to match them closely to their kidney donor in order to minimize the risk of future rejection episodes by having a close immunologic match. With all that said, as we were talking about innovation in kidney disease, there's been some innovation in kidney transplant, meaning that there's donor swaps or paired donation that's become more popular among living kidney transplant. So what I say when I mean when I say that is that if a person comes to a transplant center and has a potential living kidney donor who is a good living kidney donor, meaning that they're medically fit to be a kidney donor, and they don't match their intended recipient, there's national programs and even programs within centers to be able to swap kidneys with another kidney living kidney donor recipient pair who also doesn't match. So instead of directly donating to your intended recipient, you can donate to the recipient of the other pair, and then that donor from that pair donates to your intended recipient. So there's been some advancements in increasing the number of living kidney donation or living kidney transplants that occur through these swap and pair donation programs for people who are not compatible. So certainly I would encourage patients who have a potential living donor to ask about that at the transplant center that they're being evaluated at, to see if that would be another option for incompatible donation.
Okay, that's good. So just ways to minimize people just walking away and saying, oh, it doesn't work, but there was someone who was ready to donate where someone else could have utilized that.
Absolutely. And I think, that benefits a lot of people, even if, it's not to your intended recipient, for highly motivated donors.
Mm-hmm. And Keisha, you talked a bit about being on dialysis and having, a limited diet, and you talked a little bit about the time that going into a dialysis center takes away from you. Can you explain a little bit to our listeners about, dialysis at home and dialysis at a center and what those differences are?
So dialysis at a center, I was on the dialysis machine for Huml for 3 hours, but it's just the preparation of getting ready to go. That's usually a couple hours, and then you have to sit there for a couple hours and on the machine. And I just kind of wanted to get my time back. So with peritoneal, I was able to do it at home. The diet wasn't as restricted, and I'm a foodie, so that was most important. And I was able to just do dialysis at home myself. So, and it was a more natural way to dialyze, because it was just like a glucose solution that I would put into my peritoneal in my stomach, basically. And I just preferred that over, someone else having control over my dialysis situation.
I know my uncle was a candidate for at-home or peritoneal dialysis, and I know we would go out of town on cruises and vacations, and he would have to arrange for shipments to go, hotels and things like that. But he was able to hang out with us and kind of time it around our, agendas and stuff. So it seemed like he had greater flexibility for sure with that type of dialysis. And can you talk a little bit about what dialysis is, though? So your kidneys begin to fail, and what exactly are those machines doing now to allow that person to be able to live and function?
Sure. So I tell patients that your kidneys primarily have two functions. The first is to remove toxins that your body doesn't need, but get rid of the toxins that your body doesn't need. And the second function of your kidneys is to get rid of the fluid that your body doesn't need. So when Keisha was describing her journey with kidney disease, she said initially she noticed that her lower extremities were getting very, very swollen. So that was kind of a sign that, her kidneys weren't doing their job of getting rid of the fluid that they need to. So when we talk about kidney failure and instituting dialysis as a kidney replacement therapy, the machines that we use do just that. The first job of the machine is to take out the toxins from the patient's body. Those toxins include things like creatinine, blood urea nitrogen, potassium, managing the acid level in a patient's blood. And then the second job of the machine is to take out the fluid that the patient doesn't need. So whatever the patient consumes as far as liquids throughout their diet, in between their dialysis sessions, we remove with the machine. Some patients think that the dialysis machine helps your kidneys to recover their own function, but that's not necessarily true. It's more of a substitute of the function of the kidneys when they're not working on their own.
Okay, well, thank you for letting us know what that actually is. I know a lot of families have heard about, family members having to go to dialysis, but not really thinking about the science of it all. So Keisha, after your brother was determined to match and you now have a determined surgery day, I know that your surgeon was Dr. Modlin, who is now with Metro Health Hospital. He's a great doctor.
Yes, he is.
Doing phenomenal work, has done phenomenal work, and is now over at Metro. So we have the benefits of having him on our team. Talk a little bit about having Dr. Modlin as your doctor and preparing yourself for surgery day.
We were scheduled for December 10th. That was the closest date that we can get, which was good because it was December, it was Christmas time. So I have a forever gift from my brother.
Yeah.
But we were linked up with Dr. Modlin, which was great because he was the only Black kidney transplant surgeon at Cleveland Clinic. I'm not sure if they have one now that he's with us at Metro, but it was just, the experience was great. Number one, because of his personality and his bedside manner. My mom, my dad, my brother, and I, we were all in the office together, and it was just kind of relieving to see someone walk in that looked like us, which is rare in the medical field to have a Black transplant surgeon. I don't know of any other. But Dr. Modlin was great with explaining everything, and he answered all of our questions. And it was just for me, my transplant experience was just a great experience all the way around. And just having Dr. Modlin there was like a extra plus.
I'll make sure he, gets this link directly so he can hear the accolades. Great accolades. But, we do talk a lot about the center, what that looks like as far as, having physicians who look like the patient population, especially at Metro, a diverse group of patients, and, having someone that looks like you and how that can really help to, increase your overall, the positivity of an experience. And I know you've been doing it now for a while. Do you see any changes and shifts, in the field with folks from more diverse backgrounds coming into the field at all?
I think there's been a really large effort in getting to trainees earlier in the pipeline. By that, I mean high schoolers who want to become physicians or other personnel in the medical field, getting to trainees during their medical school education. I know that I've given several lectures to the medical students, and we talk explicitly about disparities and diversity in the workforce and cultural competency. So I think there's been a much stronger effort to allow trainees earlier in the pipeline to experience, diversity and to get diverse applicants engaged in nephrology, kidney medicine, kidney transplantation.
Okay. Yeah, I know that there are lots of programs now where different pipelines are created, and I'm just hoping to see that, kind of branch out. In a few years from now, we look up and we see a much more diverse pool of doctors, which is great. So thanks for sharing that with us too, Keisha. I guess too, as a navigator for the kidney program, you talked a little bit about, with me directly, you talked about how people really didn't know that transplants were an option for them. They really didn't know what their options were at all. So just, what would you say to someone who's weighing their options and maybe apprehensive about having a big surgery if they had a match that could potentially, change their lives? What would be your advice for them?
My advice is to research, research, research. There's so much information out here. You can always reach out to our center, first of all, because we did have a study that focused around the benefits of getting transplantation and how to go about it. Also, discuss your concerns with your physician, your nephrologist. It's just so much information that's out there that people don't even know about. Working in the dialysis center as a transplant navigator, I've come across several patients that didn't even know that transplantation was an option, or didn't even know anything about transplants, and they've been on dialysis for 10 or 15 years, and they could have, had a transplant had they known that it was available to them. So definitely research and kind of, discuss it with your doctor.
Thank you. And I know as a nephrologist, you see a lot of patients who might be great candidates for a kidney transplant. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about being a donor? And what does life look like after donating a kidney to someone, just in case someone has fears or apprehensions?
So, I think I would tell people to keep an open mind about being a donor. Certainly as medical professionals, we screen all potential donors, make sure that they're healthy enough, make sure that we anticipate that their outcome after donating a kidney would not impact their life in any negative way, either negatively in a medical way or negatively in a quality of life or a psychosocial way. So I would just encourage people to come forward, and perhaps maybe if you aren't healthy enough to be a donor or have some hesitations about being a donor, maybe just to be an advocate for your loved one who may need a kidney transplant, to help them get their story out there. There's many ways that you can kind of get your loved one's story out there and advocate for them without necessarily being the actual donor. So people who undergo kidney transplant also need a large support system for around the time of the surgery and then their recovery from the surgery. So another, I think, really great way to be involved with somebody, even if you can't be their potential donor, would be to, offer to be a part of their support network for around the time of their surgery.
That's a good point too. That is a good point. And I know, Keisha, you could probably speak to that journey, after the kidney surgery. It's a monumental event that changed your life, but also it's still a pretty big surgery that you have to heal from. So that could be a lot as well. Mm-hmm. So do you feel more connected to your brother at all? I know it's just you two, but do you ever
absolutely yeah, so he doesn't even remember when the anniversary rolls around. So I always just give him a call or shout him out on social media every December 10th, just to let him know that I'm so forever grateful and thankful for his selfless act of giving me the gift of life. It's a beautiful thing.
That is so sweet. And I'm hoping that folks are listening to this feeling more compelled to become an organ donor, or, right now, even in the blood shortage, like just giving a piece of yourself that can help so many others. It's just super important. And I know we have in Northeast Ohio Life Bank, which is an organization that helps, people try to find out more about organ donation and just overall awareness and education. And Keisha, you have some info about an event coming up for Life Bank. Can you share that with us?
Yes. So I just received my save the date from Life Bank today. I got it today, ironically. So they have the Gift of Life walk or run. It's August 7th this year at the Blossom Music Center. So that's something that you can go to, and you can gather a lot of information at this event. They have all kind of brochures and flyers and information, and people there to answer any questions that you have. It's usually so much fun. It's child friendly, and it's just a family event that you can come out on August 7th and just enjoy.
Thank you so much. If you want to learn more information and, start your research off about organ donation, you can definitely start at lifebank.org. That's LIFEBANC.org for more info. And of course, I plugged worldkidneyday.org for more information as well. And then again, here at the center, you guys can reach me at ehood@metrohealth.org. If you have any questions, I can just help, kind of punch you in the right direction to the right person. But Ann, Keisha, I am so grateful for this conversation today. Thankful for your expertise and sharing your stories with us. Great work, Ann. I mean, you're phenomenal at what you do.
Yes,
So
she is.
thank you so much for sharing a lot of information with us today. And then Keisha, I know it's a personal journey, but you like to share with others, and I just really appreciate that as well.
No problem.
Thank you for involving me.
Happy World Kidney Day, you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erika.